Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Mondays with Moss, my weekly Monday broadcast on basically living a great life and being successful, which means accomplishing what you want to accomplish and feeling good about it. Well, I'm not sure about you, but this week has been kind of a tough week for me, so I want to share an incident that happened to me where it involved maybe losing some self-control. I'm not sure. I'll check it out with you. Tell you about that in a minute. But first I want to give you two quotes. One is by Rudyard Kipling. Here's a good one. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. I'll say that again. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. And I like this one by Mark Twain. I may have mentioned this before. Mark Twain, the year before he died, or sometime before he died, said 99% of all the things he worried about happening never came true. So this whole notion of worry, fear, rumination, obsessing about the future, what-ifing, it really, really comes true. So this conversation is a follow-up to the one I had last week, which was the first session on self-control of fear. This is the second. Maybe I'll complete it. If I feel I have too much to talk about or if I babble on too much, I'll finish up next week. So just to catch up, a little review. What we've been talking about in relationship to fear is what is fear, where does it come from, what's the value of fear, and basically when you're confronting something that you're afraid of or anxious about, you want to do two things. You want to diagnose it and then you want to treat it. You want to deal with it. What do I mean by diagnose it? You want to become aware of it. So you want to name it. Oh, what's this feeling I'm having? I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling agitated. If you label it with a word, it allows our thinking brain to begin to observe the emotional brain, which is where the fear is. That's what agitates us. That's what creates the adrenaline and the cortisol and the physical discomfort in our body. If you name it, you start to begin to have a little control over it. Number two, you can locate it in your body. Like I know when I get angry, I usually feel it in my solar plexus, in my chest, in my muscles. When I get nervous, scared, anxious, I feel it in my stomach area. I feel like I want to go to the bathroom. I feel like agitated. So that's where you want to locate it. Again, when you locate it, you're beginning to use your conscious mind to notice what's going on. The more you notice, the more you become aware, the greater the likelihood you can be able to think about what can you do about it. Also, you want to ask yourself diagnostically, what's my core fear? Now, I think there are three core human needs that we have. One is a need for connection or approval or bonding or love. Connection, let's call it connection. Another need is a need for control. That you have a feeling that you're effective, you can make something happen, you can take action. And the third need is a need for safety, that you're not in danger. So if there's any threat to control, safety, or connection, you're going to have disruption, fear, anger, probably more fear or anxiety. Also, you want to ask yourself, this is according to my colleague Rick Hansen, is it orange or red? According to him, based upon evolutionary origins, the brain is negatively biased. What do I mean by that? It means we're wired to see fear, to be fearful, to construe danger where it's not. So he suggests, one way of thinking about this is we're always on an alert stage of orange. Think about a traffic light. You're driving, approaching the light, it's green, go through. Orange, caution, stop. If it's a red light, you stop. You're in danger if you go through. So orange it's caution. Be vigilant. The brain is wired to be vigilant. So we're always on guard. We're always vigilant to what's going to happen. The hard part about it, after you become aware of it, is to ask yourself, is it a story or a fact? Am I making up a story? Am I what-ifing? Or am I really in danger right now? Okay? And then last week, I think I talked about three strategies. One was to attack the dog, which was get in action. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I used to take teams up to the Poconos. We would do mountain work. We would do rappelling. We would do climbing. We would do orienteering in teams to give people an opportunity to practice leadership, cooperation, and problem solving. Anyway, The rappel was quite scary for people if they've never done it. So I had 7 guys, all leaders, all head of companies, very successful. We came to the cliff. It's about a 280-foot drop. And we presented. I had a climbing guide because I'm not certified in ropes, but I did have someone there. And we talked about what's involved, how to create safety, how to belay, how to watch out for your buddy. And then for the next hour, these 8 guys, they kept asking questions. And the guide looked at me and said, do you think anyone's ever going to go down? And all of a sudden, one guy said, I'm going to go down. He jumps up, puts on the harness. We hook him up. He flies down the mountain. I thought he was just hurling down the mountain, but he was doing a good job kicking off the mountain and rappelling. And then everyone got confidence and they did it. Later on, we're having a little snack at the bottom of the mountain, the hill, cliff. And someone says to him, boy, God, you were so brave. I couldn't believe how great you were. You were a leader. You led our way. And he's looking, his head is down. And he said, I wasn't courageous. I was scared shitless. The only reason I volunteered was I couldn't stand the waiting. I knew if I waited any longer, I was going to run back to the car and lock the car and not do this. So attack the dog. Have your fear, do it anyway. Another strategy I talked about was play the A game. The A game is 3 A's. Acknowledge what's going on, take accountability for it, and then take action. And I'll tell you about how I used the A game in one of the situations where I did a rant. And I was not very comfortable about doing it, but I used the A game to get back grounded. And then thirdly, another technique is realistic optimism. In other words, deal with the situation and then maintain perspective that things are going to work out. Okay? So that's it. So let me tell you what happened to me. So this week, I've been pretty uncomfortable. I had some medical procedures. I didn't like them. They were uncomfortable. I had a couple clients who canceled appointments. I think I just was feeling a little bit ungrounded. And then when I found out when President Trump was interviewed that he knew about the coronavirus and the severity of it back, I think, in February, but didn't say anything. And something just triggered in me. It was like, I just had to react. Angry, got upset. So over the weekend, I think, or Friday, I went on a rant. I went on Facebook and I started ranting about President Trump. I try not to do that, but recently I think I've been feeling a bit agitated. So I went on a rant, and then a lot of people responded. Got about 20, 25 responses. Most of them are positive because most of the people follow me kind of know how I'm wired and we're in alignment. But I had several people be quite critical, two in particular. And I think what they're expressing was really under the criticism and the annoyance with me was disappointment. And when I read their messages, I got pretty upset about it. It was really interesting because I shifted really powerfully from feeling angry to feeling nervous. I could feel it in my stomach. I can feel it even now as I'm talking about it. I felt kind of worried about losing their approval, losing a business opportunity, off a relationship with me. And they may continue to choose to do that. But I'm okay now if that's what they want to do. But what I did was I did the diagnosis, became aware of my fear. I asked myself, what's the core fear? What am I feeling uncomfortable about? And it was about feeling uncomfortable about loss of connection and not feeling safe. And then I said, okay, where am I locating it in my body? It was my stomach. My breathing got a little tense. I could feel my muscles tense. And then I said, am I in an orange state or red state? I said, this feels orange. I'm not in real danger. No one's coming at me with a spear. No one's evicting me. No one's attacking me. It's just some couple of people being critical. They didn't like what I had to say. So I said, I'm in orange. And then I asked myself, am I in fact or story? So the fact was, yeah, 2 people were critical. They were disappointed. The story was, I'm going to have a loss of friendship, loss of business, loss of relationship. Once I saw that, I said, okay, let me play the A game. So the acknowledgement was, I was concerned. I felt the fear, felt the discomfort, felt the worry. I took accountability. I said, look, Moss, you expressed it. You went on a rant, if you're going to go on a rant, be grown up enough and let people have their reactions. That helped a lot. That really helped a lot. Taking accountability for what happened. And then the action was, I admitted it. I wrote to one guy, I said, yeah, I think I was on a rant. We went back and forth with a couple communications. He acknowledged what I was saying, and he invited me in the future to have conversations, and I responded, yeah, I would like to do that, even with differences of opinion, and for both of us to do it with mutual respect. By that time, and also I called a friend to let him know what I was feeling. I wanted to get out of my head and be in conversation. So by that time, I was in pretty good shape diagnostically. And I also did realistic optimism. I said, look, take responsibility, and it's okay. It's just this all shall pass. And that's the interesting thing about fears and anxieties. They tend to pass. They don't stay with us. The situation disappears quickly. If you really just let fear go through your body, it's out of your system between 90 seconds and 3 minutes. If you just have the physical experience. What keeps it going is our thinking about it, the what ifing. So I had realistic optimism. I took responsibility, faced it, and I said, I'm just going to take action, and this too shall work out one way or the other, whether or not they want to stay in a relationship. I created safety. I was on the deck of my beach house, and by safety, I kind of felt I felt my body, felt the chair, looked around, saw the walls, thought to myself, I'm healthy, got some money in the bank, I'm married, my kids like me. That created a sense of safety. I did a little breathing, and I self-regulated by just calming down. And that was really, really great. So by the time I did that, that only took about 15, 20 minutes. Maybe that's a long time for you. But I know for me, it takes me about, if I'm really triggered, and my anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10 goes to above a 6. I probably need 10 or 15 minutes to re-regulate and calm down. So I follow my procedures, the stuff I'm teaching you, and it worked. I got grounded again, felt good, had an appetite, my pain in my stomach went away. So that's kind of a recap, also talking about the situation that I was experiencing. Now I want to give you a few more techniques for managing fear. This one, I like this one. Remember the movie Follow the Money? Or Tom Cruise. He was a guy trying to figure out. I think it was Tom Cruise. Anyway, it was a baseball team, maybe Oakland, and they were doing quite badly. But this statistician, this nerdy statistician, came over and told them basically how to win the pennant, and he did it. That was cool because he had to do the name of the movie was Follow the Money. I'm getting caught up on my story. Why not follow the anxiety? Follow the fear. What do I mean? You can kind of treat, hey, Laura, you can kind of treat the fearful situation as a movie. You're sitting in the audience watching the movie. Watch the movie of your mind. This is the most dramatic movie you're ever going to see. And sometimes we believe the movie. We believe it's a horror story. It's not. It's just a story in our mind, a movie in our mind. Watch it. Ask yourself, what happened? What triggered? What happened before? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Is it fact or story? Is it orange or red? So I'll give you an example. I have an older teenager, a senior in high school, who I've been working with for a couple of years, and he has an old story in his mind that he's not good enough. He's unpopular. So he figured out a number of years ago to play the Imposter Syndrome. He was going to make believe he was much better than he was. But he really felt shameful and actually became addicted to alcohol and marijuana to calm himself down. So as we were talking about it, he came in one day and he looked really upset. I said, what happened? He says, what happened was nobody wants to be friends with me. I said, perfect opportunity to follow the anxiety, follow the fear. Watch the movie. What happened? What he felt, what he thought. He realized as he went through it, he was telling himself a story. Nobody rejected him. A couple guys didn't talk to him. They were talking to each other. And what got triggered was his story. He's a loser. Nobody cares about him. And then he disappeared and acted kind of like a schmuck, acted like a loser, and therefore nobody wanted to be with him. Once he thought about it, he said, oh my God, I've been living my life as a movie. I said, how do you want to live your life? I said, I want to be real. I want to be able to say what I want to say, not be so scared all the time about what people think. So I said, you want to be authentic. So that's important. And I'm going to pick up on this in a little bit because one of the techniques is do what's really important. So anyway, so if you can watch your thoughts and notice the movie, if you can, you're not being your thought. You're just watching a thought. You're either watching the thought or you're being the thought. Maybe that's so confusing. If it is, let me know. If you can watch the thought of you're weak, you're not weak. You're just having a thought I'm weak, or you're stupid, or you're unlovable. It has nothing to do with how you really are. You're making it up and then you believe it. If you believe it, you wire your brain to become that kind of person. So you really have to learn not to believe it. And this is what this program is about. This whole series of tools for navigating your life is how do we deal with upsets and frustrations and disappointments. So one technique is follow the anxiety. Another technique, which I really like, which my youngster did, is basically, is this the hill I'm going to die on? Is this the hill I'm going to die on? In other words, what's important to you? This is the principle of intentionality. So what's important? So for me, being self-expressed, being creative, and being authentic are important. Also being empathic. So then I set goals on during the day. What's my intention to behave that way? And I take actions according. Doesn't mean I'm always going to be true to my principle, but hopefully either I'm going to recognize it or someone's going to call me up short, and then I can be accountable to play the 3 A's, be aware, accountable, and then take action. And really important, I think another part of my Navigating for Success formula, which by the way, if you want to read about the formula, go on Amazon, go on Kindle. It's really quite inexpensive. If you're a Kindle member, you get the book free. I talk about what's important. What are the goals you need to take based upon what you think is important? What are the key actions you have to take on a regular basis? And very important, resiliency, being able to bounce back. So for example, I have this reasonably new client, a grown man in his 40s, who has a terrible job. He's working for a company that's dreadful. They're known internationally for being quite vicious and squeezing a lemon, all the lemon juice, like taking a sponge and squeezing people until they burn out or they quit or they die. So he was fearful because everybody around him was scared too, and he wanted to quit. And they said, you can't quit. If you quit, you don't have a job. It's really hard to get a job now. And if you don't get a job, what's going to happen? If you can't get a job for 6 months, who's going to want you? You're going to become homeless. And people were working themselves up into tribal terror. So we talked about this, and I said to him, let's do the follow the fear. We did that. I said to him, what's important? He says, what's really important for me is to trust my instincts, to trust my intuition and act accordingly, be true to myself. And I said, okay. So we talked about that. He said, I think I really want to quit this job. I want to maybe start something on a small business. I don't want to work for a large corporation. These corporations suck. They burn us out. Most of these corporations don't care about us. They care about shareholder value, but not us. And then I called him up. He came to see me by Zoom or phone. And I said, how you doing? I was kind of worried about him. He said, I quit. And then we had a great conversation about he followed his dream. He didn't follow his anxiety. So he cracked the back of the anxiety because what was really important to him was to trust himself, trust his intuition, and to be authentic. So that's called, is this the hill I'm going to die on? Working for this company was not the hill he was going to die on. Another one that's really important is to self-regulate to rebalance. What do I mean by that? I've talked about this before, but it's being able to check in with yourself, start to take some slow, deep breaths. Maybe breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6 seconds or 8 seconds. And this may sound silly, but when you breathe out, sigh. Why sigh? Because the sigh activates a really important cranial nerve, the vagal nerve, which triggers the relaxation response. That's what allows us to drop the anxiety. Cortisol drops, adrenaline drops, oxytocin, which is the love hormone, increases. You begin to love yourself. You begin to like yourself. You begin to feel a little more comfortable in the world. So slow breathing is an excellent way to self-regulate. I'll talk more about that if you like. Another one I like is called Be a Wizard. Be a Wizard. So I'll tell you a story. Years ago, my wife was leading a workshop, and she was talking about anxiety and how to conquer anxiety. And this guy raised his hand and said, I'm really scared of public speaking. Now, by the way, as a side note, you know that people fear public speaking more than dying? So public speaking, self-expression in front of a group is really scary for most people. Most of the time we're worried about what are people going to think rather than what do I think and what do I feel. Anyway, so she had this guy, had him come up, and he said, when I get scared, she took him through, follow the fear, and he explained it, and she said, well, who do you want to be? He said, I want to be courageous. I want to be a life adventurer. And something clicked in my wife's mind, who's a psychologist. She said, well, what character can you think of who represents that? And he said, Indiana Jones. So she had him close his eyes, and she said, she said to herself, I'm going to teach him to be a wizard. Imagine you're Indiana Jones. Picture the hat, the whip, the gun, the horse, the girl, the map, the adventurer, fighting evil. He did it, and as he did it, she said, get into the posture of Indiana Jones. Breathe like Indiana Jones. Put your chest out. He picked up his head. He had his eyes closed. He looked around. And then she said, without opening your eyes, say what you want to say to whoever group he was talking to. And he did it powerfully. Good self-expression. And everyone, he opened his eyes, everybody applauded. And she said, there's something called state psychology, S-T-A-T-E. If you can remember a time you were successful, or if you could create it in your imagination, feel the power of the emotion, have the posture and facial expression, feel the power in your body, feel strong, breathe into it. And then when you're imagining, you can take that, imagine the situation that you're having trouble with, and be Indiana Jones, be the wizard, and lo and behold, for that short period of time, you were a wizard. I like that. That sounds pretty good to me. Okay. Now, another one is to create I am safe. I am safe. So when I was getting the feedback from people based upon my ranting, I did not feel safe because I was into my orange red. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I was probably about a 6, moderately uncomfortable, but I was fearful, concerned it was going to go up to an 8 and ruin my afternoon. So I created a number of exercises that I talked about. One was creating safety. How do I do that? I became aware of where I'm sitting, my body. I wanted to get out of my mind because this is where the anxiety is. There's nothing coming at me. There's no danger. It's in my mind. So to quiet my mind, I got into my body. And the chair, my butt on the chair, my feet on the deck. I opened my eyes. I looked at the marsh, the water, saw some boats, smelled the air. I was grounding myself in reality, being here, not in my mind. There was no safety in my mind. When anxiety is there, forget it. There's no safety. You have to create it out here. I did some breathing. I became aware of the sturdy walls of my house. I said, I am safe. I am protected. I got a locked door here. No lions, tigers, or bears are coming at me. I have some money in the bank. I have good medical care. I have friends and family. I created reassurance. I reminded myself by having perspective, I had safety. Now, I want you to know when you do that, you rewire your brain. Your brain says, oh, Moss, Eric, Derek, whoever it is, Cindy, Sally, Laura, I'm not in danger. I might be conjuring it up, but by saying to myself what's going on and seeing it by my senses, I'm creating a sense of safety. Okay, let's see, is there another one? Yeah, I'm going to tell you one more. It's called, Are You Talking to Me? Remember that line? I think Robert De Niro, are you talking to me? You talking to me? So when you start to feel the fear, we have voices in our head. We have thoughts in our head. I call them voices. So sometimes I might say, okay, so my fearful voice is Sally. So Sally, what are you afraid of? Tell me what's going on. And then Sally, because I have a relationship with the voice in my head, she'll say to me, what's going on? And I say, well, tell me more about it. I'm interested. You seem really scared. I want to bring empathy. So if I'm empathic to myself and the voice in my head, Sally will feel a little more comfortable. I said, so what are you feeling in your body, Sally? In your tummy, in your chest, in your head? Is it real? Is it a story? By the way, then I might say to Sally, I might look at her and say, how big is she? So I might shrink her in size. That might be something I want to talk about in the future, which is how do you alter the voice of the fear so you really make it into a Donald Duck or a Mickey Mouse and it becomes quite manageable. So I once had a client, just remember this, who had a really irate husband, who really got pretty angry, and she became terrified. He never hit her; just he would rant and rave, and she would have to stay there, paralyzed. So I said to her, "Why don't you leave the room?" So I can't move. He's too big for me. I said, "Will he stop you?" No, but I'm afraid he will. So I said, let's try this. Picture your husband, give him a form, dress him, and let's put him 10 feet away from you. So she put him 10 feet away, and he was ranting. Picture him ranting. Watch his eyes, his face. Listen to him scream. Now move him around. Put him in another room. I said, how about if we change his clothes? How about if we ruffle his hair? How about if we give him a beard? How about if we dress him in a diaper? And when she did it, put the diaper part she liked, she burst out laughing. And she had no fear. And when she went home during the week, I was curious how this was going to work. And he, sure enough, during the week, he went into a rant, much louder than what I did on Facebook. And she pictured him in a diaper. And she burst out laughing. And she left the room. In other words, she was able to change. Hi, Paul. Hey, Sharon. So she was able to change her perception of him, catch her breath, and then take action. Wow, so powerful. It's so weird how our mind beats us up and bullies us, but with some simple techniques like the ones I'm giving you. I know it's easier said than done. I'm not expecting you to do all of them, but take one or two. And by the way, if you want to go over this, just go on Mondays, just go on my Facebook and scroll down. They're all there. All the videos are there. You keep watching them. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I've given you enough. What did I do today? I told you, did a little recap of last week. I told you about my incident of ranting, what I went through. And then I talked about follow the money, follow the anxiety. Is this the hill I'm going to die on? In other words, creating intentionality. I think I talked about self-regulation, be a wizard, creating safety. Oh, yeah, I know, are you talking to me? That's a lot. That's a lot. But anyway, next week, I want to review everything I've talked about, catch up to date on managing fear. And then I want to tell you basically when bad things happen. What are the 4 or 5 things you need to know to just deal with 4 or 5 things? But for now, the bottom line, we're all afraid. We all live in a state of orange. Fear is natural. Fear doesn't mean you're really in danger. The problem is when we tell ourselves the fear is real and we believe our movies and our stories in our mind. Self-control of both anger and fear requires 2 skills. Learning how to self-regulate, get yourself grounded and calm down, and then coping. And there are a whole bunch of tools. So the tools I'm giving you, I think I have about 9 or 10 tools in my Navigator's Toolkit. And again, if you want to learn more about it, spend more time studying it, go get my book on Amazon. It's on Kindle, very cheap. So next week, I want to tell you about when bad things happen. And then I want to give you the formula for living a great life. I still have more tools to give you, but I think it's time that I talk about in this whole notion of being resilient and bouncing back and having control of your life, how to do it. Okay? Okay, guys. Have a great week. Navigate, thrive, don't survive.